Hey everybody.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Spoiler Alert by Fan Service Apparel. This is episode 12. My name is Jené.
My name is Nick.
And we're usually here to talk about the things that we like, the things we're watching maybe, the things that we've watched in the past, but we just need to talk about it. Anything fandom related, that's what we're here to discuss. But actually today, I have no idea what we're talking about because Nick told me, he's like, don't you worry, I know what we're talking about. And I said, great, okay, what is it? He said, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
and
so this
I won't.
this is episode 12. It's still a relatively new podcast, so we're still kind of figuring out what our order of operations is, to borrow a phrase. So yeah, this week I have some topics of stuff going on right now in the kind of fandom community, and we're going to talk about them. And it's going to be kind of like a, to borrow another phrase, like a blind bake. You know, you're not going to know what's going to happen until it comes out of the oven.
Oh.
So, yeah. First, though, comments and corrections. I don't have any comments, so please leave comments so that we can feature them. Secondly, corrections. Last week, I did mention that there was a sweater that said Monk's Cafe on it, home of the big salad. So there is a design that says that, but it is not on a sweater. It is on a T-shirt.
That's true.
I just wanted to make that clarification for anybody that's looking for it.
If you were bummed that it wasn't a sweater or a sweatshirt,
I mean, I was.
We can make that.
We can make it.
Yeah.
And we will most probably will because
especially because it's sweater weather.
It's sweater weather and I want to wear it.
Yeah. So it's currently just a T-shirt, but
yes.
Maybe you were just like speaking it into existence.
Maybe I was.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't a mistake. It was a prediction.
It was a prediction. Ooh, that's good.
Nice.
I'll write that down. So, okay, that was it for our comments and corrections. Let's just jump in the news, Jené. Have you been hearing anything about Eternals?
Oh, Eternals.
Yeah.
What
did you think I said?
I said Turtles. Turtles?
Have you been hearing anything about Turtles?
No.
Just in general?
And I also haven't heard anything about Marvel's Eternals.
So neither. We're
Turtles
0 for 2. No Turtles or E-Turtles.
E-Turtles?
Yeah, it's like esports, but for turtles, it's just as boring.
This shouldn't be this funny to me. Oh my gosh. I think I'm feeling nervous because I don't know what I'm going to be talking about today. I don't know what you're going to ask me. But no, I haven't. I haven't heard a thing. I don't know a single person who's seen it.
So it's been getting, some interesting reviews. We have yet to watch it.
I think I've mentioned this in previous episodes, but I don't really care to see it.
No, it just seems like a too big of a movie. There's like too many famous people. Looks like it has too big of a budget, and
it looks like it looks like Justice League.
It looks like a Justice League kind of movie where you're just like, oh boy,
oh
okay,
boy. Ooh,
oh boy. People have been saying like dense, like there's a lot to it, like it's really dense. I think we even talked about that in the last week's episode. I
didn't want it to be dense.
I didn't want it to be dense either. Some people are calling it an intergalactic soap opera. And other people are saying that it's self-aware that it makes no sense. So I guess even the whole plot and kind of the way that it is justified and kind of
and they're like, but it doesn't make sense.
Brought into the MCU, it's just kind of like, okay, this to fit into the MCU, this kind of has not made any sense. So I've just been hearing things like that. What's it called? Did you know that also the movie has been banned?
Really?
In Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar.
Why?
Because there's apparently like a same-sex couple that is featured.
Oh.
And they had pushed back asking Disney to edit those pieces of the film, and they said no.
They'd rather just lose those countries.
And they just lost those countries. And I was, we have not seen the film yet, so we'll kind of have more of an in-depth review when we do end up watching it. But I was thinking this is similar, at least it sounds like from the reports, like the end of Rise of Skywalker, Beauty and the Beast, where there's this like big hullabaloo over something, and then you watch it and you're like,
it's like air quotes. Gay. It's like.
Did I miss it?
Exactly. Up to interpretation.
And I remember, and it's so funny. It seems that.
But maybe that's not the case. I mean, we haven't seen it.
Well, yeah, we haven't seen it.
But that's kind of what I imagine.
That's what I imagine.
It's up to you.
That's what I. Yeah, and It's so funny. A lot of the times, I feel like the kind of the backlash. Remember with Beauty and the Beast, where like
oh my gosh,
there were like certain states in the South that weren't airing
before it came out. People were gonna like boycott it.
Brought so much attention to it, and then you watch the film and you kind
of you're like, that's it.
I remember missing it when we first watched it, and I was like, I missed
You're
the
like,
scene.
Where was the gay part?
Where was it?
Yeah,
it was ridiculous. So again, we have not seen it, but that's just. I guess something else people are talking about it in.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Space soap opera. I'm curious to see. I mean, Star Wars is kind of like a space opera, so I guess they just didn't do
without the music.
Without the
singing.
Well, no, like as a genre, like it's very kind of like grand and sweeping, and it's you know what I mean?
A hero's journey.
Yes.
Okay,
like,
I get what you mean.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like the music is very integral to the story.
Absolutely true.
Just as it would be in an opera. So
that's true. Motifs and all.
Yeah. Which brings me to my next kind of point or question to ask you, Jené. Do you think it's time for the MCU to kind of wrap up, at least in the kind of the way that we have been talking about it and interacting with it? This kind of like one big story. And all of these characters kind of folded into this timeline. They're kind of like trying to start another kind of wave of it, but it's still kind of within the same vein. And a lot of times, to borrow a DC phrase, you either like die the hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And you could have wrapped up the MCU right after Endgame and then started, Spider-Man Far From Home with another name. Like it would still be the MCU, but you could call it like the something or other. And then that way there was a very nice wrap up to one, but now it just feels like they're drawing out the MCU.
Here's what I think.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think that there are characters that I absolutely want to see more from. Spider-Man, Loki, Wanda and Vision.
Yeah.
Those are a couple to name a few there. Yeah. I did also like more than I thought I would. Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah,
I liked it. It wasn't my favorite of all the things that came out, but I still really liked it and would absolutely watch season 2. So those things, yeah, I do want a little bit more of that. But I think that it would be best for them, yes, to continue to make things, not to wrap it up, but to continue to innovate. And instead of trying to do like, say, Star Wars, where Star Wars was like, let's do another trilogy because we did a trilogy and then we did another trilogy and now we're going to do a trilogy of trilogies. And they were forced into following a pattern that was already laid out. And it didn't go as greatly as it could have because of that. If Marvel tries to just recreate exactly what they did before, but with new people, new characters in it, but they do the same kind of thing where there's a galactic issue and they all have to come together as not the Avengers, but whatever,
Do you think there's any...
I think don't do that.
Do you think it'd be interesting if... Well, because, there's like this very kind of linear... kind of like series of events that these movies are more or less following, where the Star Wars, at least in what's been doing better in this kind of expanded universe, we're really jumping around and like being able to say this was kind of this master timeline just for reference. Like, there's like the before Battle of Yavin and after Battle of Yavin kind of thing.
Yes.
But there's so many little bits in between. I'd be curious to see
here we have after the snap.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what that would look like applied to Marvel, where there is this like, grandiose kind of like large scale.
Like I said, the most recent trilogy of Star Wars left a bad taste in many people's mouths.
Yeah.
Maybe they could tell you 1 out of the 3 of the movies that they liked.
Sure.
But overall, so many people had gripes with it. I'm not really one of those people. I liked them, but then you have The Mandalorian, which is so good.
Yeah.
But so outside of what it's done before, and yet...
It was more expanded universe.
Yes, and they did it in a way that innovated.
Yeah.
It didn't have to follow a formula, but it got everybody excited about Star Wars again. It didn't play to fan service.
But don't you think that? Well, I mean, I think it maybe did play to fan service because it
not
was
in the same way that the trilogy did, where it was like, but Luke and Han Solo and.
I don't think that's fan service in the same sense. I think that was like more broad appeal. They were trying to get more broad appeal, so they were bringing back the names that you knew.
Okay.
I think the Mandalorian.
I guess that's what I meant.
The Mandalorian was like fan service for like the niche fans, the people that go to like the Star Wars convention fans.
Yeah.
There was
people who wanted really good stuff.
But it was like and then like to bring in the Darksaber without any context. So if you didn't know, you just didn't know.
There were a lot of things that I had to look up while watching the show because I was like, I don't know what this is about.
Throwbacks to Clone Wars. It's like, oh, of course, that's from Clone Wars, and it's like, okay, not everybody's seen Clone Wars.
Right.
But they don't call that like.
Done right. Can Marvel do?
Well, they don't call that like. There's no like term. There's no like There's no MCU in Star Wars and then expanded universe or like yes there is. They called it like the Skywalker Saga, which was kind of like this series of events from the Phantom Menace all the way up to Rise of Skywalker. Like, that's called the Skywalker Saga. And then there is, like, expanded universe things within that Skywalker Saga. I think sticking into the MCU title has kind of, in my mind, moved to be this, like, Skywalker Saga type of moniker where it denotes not a whole universe, but a chunk of time where a series of very complicated events happened, and then there need to be things outside of that MCU, like Marvel Cinematic Expanded Universe or something like that.
That's what I kind of feel like Spider-Man is doing.
They are, but they're still, like, especially with Eternals, there's been comments that people feel like they're trying to shoehorn this in to that MCU so that it makes perfect sense in this, I'll call it the Skywalker Saga. And it's like, stop trying to add things to it. Just let that chunk of time be its own thing. And then stuff you can add, like I'm looking at our recording right now, like you have your main thing and then just add something on top of it. And then you could be like, oh, while this was going on, this other thing happened over here. And it's not part of the, the core Infinity Saga. Like Mandalorian. Mandalorian happens right after not Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi.
And heaven knows there's certainly enough content out there already with the comics. There's already enough material to work off of characters and stories that kind of take place within the universe, but not within anything that then changes the stories we already know and the characters we already know.
Like the Mandalorian is not fighting canon.
No. Leave all those to be so that people can just be happy about the way it is, what they know. They don't need any of that to be changed after the
remember
fact.
like the Celestials that we got a little bit of in the past in Marvel movies? Celestials, ring a bell? This movie kind of has more to do with that, and now and the thing is that it feels like they're trying to, you have like this MCU, this like two brackets of this time for the movies that we have seen for the last so many years. And then they're just going like, and now we're in a brand new thing, but it's still part of the MCU. It's like, let's call that something else. Let's like you said, there was this trilogy and that trilogy. Let's like move over because I think it's feeling tired as saying it's part of the MCU. But yeah, I'm curious to see if they try to do more of that Star Wars thing where we're a little bit less concerned about being part of the main Skywalker saga and more concerned about exploring other stories that exist.
So in that case then, to go back to your original question, should they just wrap it up?
Yeah.
I guess they should wrap up and leave well enough alone with the original 3 phases that we've already seen.
Yeah, I agree.
Leave that there, set it aside and say that is now done. And now,
Move
create
on.
Something new with new characters which I guess, Eternals maybe was trying to be, but again, I still feel that wasn't right.
No. You know what I would have watched? I would have watched a Marvel Disney Plus schmovie that was like this expanded universe that followed Steve Rogers when he went back in time and then did not travel back forward. He just like lived out his life. Remember that?
Yeah.
I would have watched, and I mean, God knows they could have paid for it, like to have him like jumping through time, like Quantum Leap style, but with Captain America, I would have watched that, and it could have been happening parallel to all the other things we've seen, seeing how, this happened here, that happened here, just like in Star Wars. There's little hints of the Skywalker saga influencing what they're doing, but it is not. It's not tied to that. It's its own story. So I would have seen that. I mean, Loki was amazing. I can't wait for season 2. But anyways, enough about that. I think that was
this like contradicts my previous point a little bit, but I would watch a Scott Lang prequel, Ant-Man prequel. I want to see how he ended up in jail. I want to see that. I mean, we know how, but I want to see it.
I would be worried that would be, to borrow a phrase, a little too fan servicing.
Yeah, maybe.
And not in like the good way, and like the, oh boy, they did it to, for them.
I just like Paul Rudd.
I like Paul Rudd too. I would just like to see Paul Rudd inserted into more Marvel things.
That's, I guess, really what I want.
I would have watched an Ant-Man series that, he picks up right after the first Ant-Man ends.
Yeah.
And just has him like going like, well, I guess this is who I am now. Like I would have watched something like that. But anyways, moving on. Jené, what have you heard about e-turtles? No.
E-turtles?
Yep.
I can't.
They're blockchain, NFT, metaverse turtles. But you gotta feed them with real money.
They only eat Bitcoin.
Dogecoin.
Dogecoin. Oh my gosh.
They eat Dogecoin.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, Disney Genie Plus has had a bumpy rollout in Orlando.
Imagine that.
Yeah. I can imagine it. It's been having a bumpy rollout. What do you think? Because they have not announced when it's going to be coming to Disneyland. I think they launch it in Disney World, and they
work out the kinks there.
They're seeing what works and what doesn't. So some of the things that have been going wrong, just so you have a little bit of context before I ask you this question, obviously the app has been glitchy. I don't think.
Tell people what it is in case they don't know what it is.
Yeah, so
just like a quick one sentence.
Sure. So for anybody that hasn't heard, when the parks closed during COVID, Fast Pass and anything related to Fast Passes for skipping the line, if you've ever done that in Disney World or Disneyland, went away. That's all gone. What replaced it is just a cacophony of, I don't know,
garbage.
Pay-to-play kind of options where not only did they make what was a free service FastPass now a paid kind of upcharge for I think it's like $15 to $20 a day, to have access to what was a free service, now all digital on your phone in the Disney app. But then for the highest, best, newest attractions like Rise of the Resistance or Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, those are not part of the upcharge and must be purchased on a per ride basis. So if you went to, I don't know, to Disney World and you got this Genie Plus so that you could get your
Fast Passes all day.
Well, they're called Lightning Lane now.
Okay.
But to get your what essentially is a Fast Pass for rides, and you wanted to go on Rise of the Resistance, they'd say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Rise of the Resistance is
another upcharge,
$8 per person to go ride it now." So that's Disney Genie Plus.
Or you could just stand in the line.
Or you can just stand in the line. There is a free version of this that's just called Genie that is supposed to take in your preferences and kind of plan a day around your preferences to tell you like what has the lowest wait times and what what restaurants are have the least amount of people in them. It's supposed to kind of recommend like a curated day for you. The thing is, there have been reports that the wait times have been inflated. So it'll say 75 minutes, but if you actually stand in the line, it'll be like less than 30.
Whoa.
Because they want you to see it on the app and say, "Oh boy, I really need to pay more money."
Oh my gosh.
It's like the thing is the prices at least for the ones that you pay per ride, are based on how busy the ride is. So either the Genie app is going to be motivated to drive more traffic to that ride so that the wait time is high and they can charge more money for the people that want to skip it. Or two, if they can't get enough people over there, they could just inflate the wait time. Who's going to be going with a stopwatch? And then, sounding the alarm saying this is not actually that long. So we've been seeing that. Actually, WDW and T did I think it's just WDW, because NT is News Tonight, or News Today. So the channel WDW, like Walt Disney World News, that has like a YouTube channel that has some very good content, did a video where they went to each one of the 4 parks in Disney World, and they basically used the free version that they put in what they wanted to do that day, and they let it curate a day for them, and they did whatever it said, and they would not skip anything.
Yeah.
And just to see what the free version looks like. In Walt Disney, in the Magic Kingdom and in Animal Kingdom, they actually had a pretty good day on the free version. Now, it does not take into consideration the amount of walking you're going to be doing, because it constantly had them double backing, because it would say there's a short wait on this thing way over here, and then it's like, now eat at a place that you were just next to, kind of thing. Definitely not good for kids. If you have kids with a stroller,
lugging them around, back and forth.
There's going to be a lot of steps. Also, in the last video they posted, there's no way to let the app know what time you plan on leaving the park. So it will just recommend things up until park closure, assuming you are going to spend your entire day there. So that's something that I'm sure in an update will come. But anyways, they said for those 2 parks, Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom, it had a pretty good day. For the other, for Epcot and Hollywood Studios, you pretty much did nothing that you wanted to do. Everything was, would have had to have been paid for an upcharge. So that was really interesting. All of that being said, do you think that with a different type of customer, that it's going to work in the same way that they think it will work in Disneyland?
Okay, listen.
Listen.
I think that Walt Disney must be rolling in his icy grave. I'm just kidding. He's not really frozen.
He's not
frozen. There's an urban legend, but I love to pretend it's real.
Yeah.
Because his idea for the park was not this. This sounds like you must go buy more tickets to ride this more exciting ride. And I mean, he had the ticket book that was one price, and yes, there were e-ticket, whatever, but this is to sell you, like, can you still go on the ride? Sure. But they're really trying to get you to not. They're really trying to get you to pay for rides that you're not supposed to pay for.
Well, and I remember seeing a report when this first had come out. WDWNT had a really good piece where they basically said they made a ride that did not have the capacity for the demand that they knew was in their parks, talking about Rise of the Resistance, having a very long line. And then they basically made a solution to a problem they caused, which was to charge you more money. So it just didn't feel right. It was a brand new ride. They knew what the capacity requirements were for their parks, that basically they don't really have an off season anymore.
Right.
And they have these numbers. They have this data. I do not think that they just didn't know.
Of course.
But I don't think that was their top priority.
You're right. And so the marketing around this is that, like, Disney Genie Plus is a solution, but it's like
solution to the problem
they created.
And then when they, you see wait times that are not accurate and stuff like that.
Gives me a
and this
weird
kind of
feeling.
Like Disney Genie thing where the people that are in the free version, it'll curate your day kind of thing. Who would not put their thumb on the scale so that as it's telling people to go here, go there, go here, it's actually just making sure that the correct amount of people are where they need to be so that their paid services are best leveraged. why would it prioritize you to have a better day on the free version than to have a better day on the paid version?
No, of course not. It's definitely going to move people around according to what they want, not according to what you want. And I wouldn't trust that. But I could see how tourists who go there
don't have that like local person to go with to say, like,
or like they don't spend the time beforehand to like plan it all out, and they just go and just want to just let it all happen.
And they spent all this money to get there. They're going to spend just a little bit more so that they don't have
they're going to just do what the app tells them to do, and it makes sense. It makes me sad. It bums me out.
And I was going to say, if this change had been made a couple years ago, I would say, well, Disneyland is mostly APs, and they're not going to go for any service like this.
Right.
But as we've seen with the chaos that is the Magic Keys and the Dream Key that now is no longer being sold, they're really trying to push out the APs. The APs turned out to be the kind of...
Well, it's awful because here we are. We bought the Dream Key.
We did.
And we bought that because we wanted no blackout dates. And we are feeling blacked out.
We wanted to go on weekends. And, they were saying, up until if there are reservations available, even the morning of, you'll be able to make it. And you thought, great.
BS.
This is going to be one of those things where it's like maybe a Thursday. And we're like, we want to go on Saturday. Let's just book that Saturday. Essentially the spontaneity that we've been limited to with having a small child, but not really feeling anything different. As it turns out, they're heavily prioritizing capacity for single day tickets, and then kind of like a hotel that can't sell a room kind of at the end of the night and they discount it, anything left over that they couldn't fill with single day tickets gets opened up to the APs, which is...
So they just opened up a bunch more dates, like November and December
were completely blacked out.
And then all of a sudden, they all popped back up again a little bit. So did it fill a certain threshold and then they said, wait, let's let more in?
Or did it not sell out in the way they thought? What's really annoying is that
Are they just going to make all of those days very, very crowded now?
Part of the reason that you get that pass is for some of that spontaneity. I understand the reservation system, but the reservation system should be a little bit more linear, where a day fills up, it goes to the next day. A day fills up, it goes to the next day. This whole kind of like back and forth, continuously refresh. This is like some kind
of... And the priority should really be first come, first serve.
This is some kind of BS that if you don't have kids and you don't have a bunch of other stuff going on in your personal life, sure, you can just be like, let me check again. Let me have a half-hour timer set on my thing. Let me look on Instagram accounts that post when stuff refreshes. I don't have time for that. Like, that was why we paid the best one in the past, was that I want to think about going, and then I want to just decide to go. And you go. And I understand that is...
We have gone way less than we ever have before. We've been pass holders for years, especially Nick, who has grown up in this area, has been a pass holder pretty much his whole life. We have gone way less this time around, and since we've gotten our pass, than we would have thought. Especially now with a child, we thought we'd be taking her there a lot.
We thought we'd be going like every weekend. We'd be one of those people.
We're going about once a month, which I understand. Like, to gripe about this sounds very silly, petty. We realize like that's still really incredible, but considering the price of the pass,
the price and
kind
the
of
value
what was promised.
Yeah, the value that was promised, and really just as a kind of a warning to people that might try to see it and justify the cost based on a certain amount of visits. You're, as it stands now, you are really, really not given the value that you were before, and the prices did not go down to reflect that reduction in value. They went up.
Yeah.
And it's, if you saw when they stopped selling the Dream Key and they only now sell the one below it does not have free parking. So now any new APs Magic Keys have no free parking option, which is even more of a deterrent because it was such a sunk cost type of thing where you paid it all up front and then you're like, I'm going to get such a good value because I don't have to think about the parking. Because it is really true that even though it might or might not be more or less economical, there's just this kind of like nickel and diming feeling where you're like, let's go to the park. We got a reservation. Oh man, another $15 for parking and I haven't even walked in the door. you know, whether or not it was, you know, that was saved money because you weren't going to go that often, or however the economics worked out, it just didn't feel great. So it was, again, another thing that I want that flexibility. I want to not think about it, and I will pay for that premium, and we're not getting it. So Genie Plus might work out more here as they try to muscle out the AVs, because you're going to get more single-day park people that will then use this more. Maybe. You know, but anyways.
I don't know. We're going to Florida in January. I'm very excited about that. But I don't know that we will be using the Disney Plus or Genie Plus, Disney Plus, the Genie Plus, all these pluses. I don't know if we'll use Genie Plus. I don't think so.
I don't know. Anyways, that about wraps it up for us. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah. Well, that was fun.
That was fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments what you thought, if you like this format, if this kind of wild card thing tickled your fancy, and we'll do it again. It seemed to keep Jené on her toes.
It sure did.
But anyways, this has been Spoiler Alert by Fan Service Apparel. Check out our website, fanserviceapparel.com, where you can see all of our fandom-inspired apparel, including soon-to-be a Monk's Cafe sweater.
That's right.
Home with a big salad.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Oh, yes.
Don't forget to feed your e-turtles.
Feed them that Shiba coin.
Yum, yum.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.